Oh gosh. So let me get to Forbes. Now this is a little older article, but I read through it and I think that a lot of it still pertains to today. Now this article is about 8 years old, right? But it still pertains to today. Now, during the Obama era, he actually unveiled plans to learn more about ways that banks charge for overdraft fees. Now, this was called the Card Act. And if you remember back when banks sent out that form that said, we're no longer automatically enrolling you into overdraft protection, you have the option to opt out of it. Because at one time, you open up a checking account and you would have overdraft fees. And it wasn't where, no, don't put it on there. It was on your account. So he ends up coming up with the Card Act that was able to protect us from that. So reading further on in this article, this group, it's called CFPB. They were able to figure out how overdraft fees were being charged to accounts. So here's an example that they give. Say you're a student with $50 in your account. You make 3 consecutive purchases for $10 each. That leaves you with $20, right? But you still need to buy a $40 book for class that evening. You decide to swipe your debit card anyway, under the assumption you'll be charged that $135 overdraft fee. Well, that's not how it goes. In this case, this is what they're saying banks are doing. The $40 book is deducted first, leaving the student with only $10. Then the 3 transactions of $10 are deducted. That allows the bank to collect an overdraft fees 2 times instead of 1. Now, you may be thinking that they calculate this by chronological order, but that's not how banks can maximize their fees. So they're doing it by transaction amount. You get what I'm saying? Just like when you go to the store and you get the buy one, get one half off. And the one that's half off is actually the cheapest one. It's not going to be the most expensive boot, for instance, that is getting the half off. That's what's happening here. The larger transaction is going to come through first, and then the smaller ones are going to follow. That's messed up. Messed up on so many levels. There definitely needs to be something that can stop this from happening. I would have accrued thousands of dollars of overdraft fees if I had, all of that happen and more transactions come in. Can you believe that? That's so shitty. So anyway, that is what I want to go over with you today inside of what's happening. Coming up, I do have some help to help us find out how we can maximize our dollar for the future. Chris Elmore, financial advisor, is coming up next. All right, welcome back inside of the Sunny Side of Life podcast. And this episode is called Coins, Dinero, Mulah, and Dough, How to Make My Money Grow. And the expert to do that is on the phone with me right now, Chris Elmore, financial advisor, Money Concepts. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. For those that aren't quite sure, what is a financial advisor and what do they do?
A financial advisor is someone that helps you to create strategies for reducing risk and basically building wealth over the long term. Mm-hmm. We can help out with things like investments, taxes, estate planning, college savings accounts, insurance, retirement, a lot of different things. So we kind of really help to really handle your financial wealth, really.
Right. So the whole phrase work smarter, not harder. They need to reach out to you in order to be able to maximize what they have.
That's it.
I know you're probably getting quite a few calls and concerns because we're in a pandemic right now and people aren't sure how to proceed when it comes to their finances.
The most thing people are always asking about is the uncertainty.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest thing right now is people don't know what's going to happen in the near future or the long term for that matter.
Now, one thing that concerned me is I ended up working for a company, had a great 401k plan. I took advantage of that. And then I got laid off like millions of others right now. And my 401k is kind of like in a limbo. And even I did a few investments, but not anything really big. But being that we're in COVID right now, when it comes to that 401k, what do we do about it?
Well, there's a couple different things that you can do. You can always, leave it with the 401k company. In most cases, you can, and allow that money to grow where it is. Most advisors will talk to you about rolling that money into a individual retirement account, an IRA. That way you have more control over it yourself, as well as you're able to kind of get that employer kind of out of the picture, and the money is directly between you and, say, the investment company.
Okay. Now, has anything changed or anything that we need to be aware of when it comes to our money and our investments and our retirement because of maybe certain laws have changed or because of COVID? Is there anything that we really need to know?
Well, I think it all depends on your personal situation. I mean, you get someone that's a pretty young investor. There's not much that they have to worry about because they've got time on their side.
Okay.
So they can go through, a lot of different down markets and down times, because overall their account's going to be should be great because, again, they have the longevity of time.
Okay.
Now, if you have an investor that's a little bit closer to retirement and, they're thinking about stop working in the next few years and going to depend on that money as income and to live on, well, that person needs to be a little bit more watching that account and make sure that their goals are still being met because, again, like I alluded to earlier about the uncertainty, we really don't know what's going to happen in 2021 or in the long term. So we really want to work with an advisor or work with someone that's going to personally look at that account on a either daily or quarterly basis and then make changes accordingly. Okay.
And it would probably pertain more to the older demographic where if they're unemployed, then they should definitely reach out to their advisor to kind of see what their next step should be.
Exactly.
Okay.
Definitely, because again, you don't know what's going to happen, and especially if, again, I'm going to retire in the next 2 to 3 years, and I'm going to start using that money.
Right.
Well, again, I don't have the luxury of a 20-some-year-old that's got 30 or 40 years to bounce back or rebound from COVID or anything else that comes up, because COVID's been terrible, but we'll see some other things over our next 30 or 40 year investment time. For
someone that may be fortunate enough to be working right now and it's like, okay, listen, I need to do something to be able to put up for my future. But in the event that I may lose my job, what would you figure would be a good opportunity for them to kind of get their feet a little wet in investing?
That's a great question. I think everyone should be invested in something. I mean, any great financial advisor, good financial advisor for that matter, would talk to you more about budgeting and making sure you have an emergency fund before you start investing. But once you've kind of got those, you know where your money's going. You've got that maybe 3 to 6 months emergency fund set up. And as we've seen this year, that's been the most important thing. If you haven't done any planning, if you don't have money set back for the what ifs, well, it's going to be tough. But again, once you've established those things, a really good place for any young investor to start investing would be through a Roth IRA and probably investing in mutual funds. Okay. A mutual fund is kind of a combination of stocks and bonds. So what it does is it exposes you to a lot of different stocks. It provides diversification, and it's a pretty easy investment to get in and understand. And a lot of companies will allow you to invest in it with as little as $50 a month. And actually the maximum that you can put into a Roth IRA for the year would be $6,000 if you're under age 50, and an additional $1,000 for a total of $7,000 if you're over age 50. But that's always a good investment to start because it does grow tax-free if you reach a couple of stipulations. So that's a really good investment for a young investor, and really almost any investor to be in.
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Chris as well. 918-745-9154. Financial advisors have to be licensed in certain states. And for you, you're licensed in 13.
Yes, I am. Yeah, my headquarters, or obviously main state, would be Oklahoma. And we have been in this area for quite some time. My father actually started our firm in 1970. He started working more with the employee benefits. Recently, over the past probably 20 years or so, we've gone to more of the investment side. Right now, again, I'm licensed in Oklahoma, Maryland, Missouri, North Carolina, Texas, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Georgia, Mississippi, your home state of New York, and in Wyoming. And I can actually be licensed really in any state. It's just a matter of me contacting that state and paying the proper fees and just doing the proper procedure. But I can be licensed in any state.
How can you sum it up as far as why you need to do this?
You know, I've always thought when I first got into business that, you know, my phone would just ring off the hook, that everybody would know that they would need things like life insurance, that they would know that they need to save and invest money for their financial future. But I think that it's harder than that because it's more abstract. It's not tangible. You know, everybody thinks of wealth as cars and a big home. And so those things we can really, you know, we can touch, we can see, we can post, and, you know, we can really show others what we have. And a lot of time when it comes to life insurance and investments and, you know, IRAs and things like that, you know, it's very personal, and we don't really want to show people things like that. And it's like they don't exist, so we're not able to post that statement or whatever. So it's very important because those next 10 and 20 years come here before we know it. Right. And if we haven't made any plans, or if we haven't done the proper planning and decisions that we need to make, we may not have the things that we want. We may talk about them, but we may not do the things that we need to do to get them. And that's where proper planning and a proper financial advisor or wealth advisor or financial planner, whatever it is that, you know, your person specializes in, they may have a different title, but at the end of the day, they are planning for your financial future. And again, it's very important to have someone that's helping you with those things, and it's very important to do. I
also want to stress too that in the Black community, I know growing up, my grandmother, she felt it important to make sure that she had life insurance. My grandfather had life insurance. And so my mom kind of followed the same suit. But most Black communities, it's like we have money that's tangible. So we weren't taught how to do all of this. So it is important. We think, like you said, wealth of having cars, having cash on hand, when in reality, when you hit 80 years old and the medical bills and everything else start coming in, and now you have to move into a home,